This time on DawgStrip, we bring you a mega tetanus video. Every tetanus build video all mashed together so you can see the progress from start to finish. Enjoy! So here it is in all its glory. Now, I'm going to read you the seller's ad in its entirety, so you know just what we knew we were getting ourselves into. First come, first served. Cash only, pickup only. 6-cylinder, 3 on the tree, project vehicle with enough rust to shake a stick at. I have the clear BC registration in my name. Running vehicle, or at least it ran when parked in 1988. There are brakes, but do they work? Maybe, probably not. No front seats or gauges, otherwise a complete vehicle. 9-inch rear end, is it a posi? Absolutely, most positively, definitely not. It has the heavy duty option, at least that's what it says on the side of the doors. What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe bigger brakes and beefier springs? Who knows? I doubt it. Frame is the best part, it's decent, see pics. Even comes with the manual that doesn't mention anything about rust repair. Great project for someone that is not me, who wants to practice their sheet metal cutting and welding abilities and has lots of time. It is extremely rusty. All patch panels are available online. Please, no time wasters, serious inquirers only. So there you have it. It feels like it was meant to be. It feels like the ad was written directly for us.
We knew this van wasn't ready to roll, but after changing some tires, she was ready to load. After strapping the doors down so they don't flap in the wind, we start our drive home. Clearly taking longer than we expected as we roll in long after sunset.
As the next day begins, we look over the rest of the van and suffer a bit of buyer's remorse. After cleaning out all the free junk, we get to see just how bad the floor is.
I actually think I'm vacuuming up the floor.
The rear leaf springs are actually pushing up through the floor. Oh well, time to go through the systems and see what we're working with here. At first check, the motor would not turn over by hand. That was not unexpected since the van had been sitting for over 30 years. Step 1, pull all the spark plugs and give the jugs a healthy blast of WD-40. Seems pretty easy, simple enough.
That uh-oh was a reaction to breaking a spark plug off in the head. The thread of color is still in there and our spirits sink a little. The motor might be junk anyway, so we move on and see if the motor will at least turn over.
First signs of life. Okay, next step, compression test. Let's see how healthy this engine is. That's 0 compression on the first cylinder. That isn't good. We don't know the history of the van, but there's a long list of issues that could be causing this. We hope it's just a sticking valve as we dig into the engine a little more.
It's easy to spot. Yes, the engine has a few sticking valves and this would be the cause of no compression in a few cylinders. The best way to cure this will be to tear the engine down, clean everything and do it, well, properly.
And this right here is the DawgStrip valve lapping. After playing the engine like a xylophone, we managed to get the compression up to 120 on all cylinders we could test. We're okay with that, and you can now use this DawgStrip hack, pro tip, on all your high-performance engine builds, free of charge. Alright, so we have one broken spark plug, broken off in the head, and this is going to be the first time we're going to try to start it. Starting fluid And it's going to run like crap, but let's see if it'll run. Ignition. Ooh, that was a cough of life. All right, let's load it up with starting fluid.
Was that supposed to happen?
We filled the float bowl full of gasoline, and now it should run for 10-15 seconds of glorious life. Choke.
I'm partially deaf now.
What?
Yes. Oh my god. Oh. Whew.
Yes, I'm so happy.
That's a wee bit of smoke. I'm standing way back here in the fresh air.
Yeah.
Should we go find a canary somewhere?
I am the canary.
Yeah, you are the canary. For those of you new to the channel, this is Hobo, a neighborhood stray that has adopted us as his humans. You'll see him come and go as he pleases, and wanting our attention when he's hungry. We love our Hobo.
Alright, so day 2 of working on Tetanus. It runs, broken spark plug still in number 6 cylinder, but let's put water in and see if it comes out anywhere. Oh. Just a few liters and it's full, so that's a good sign. Today on my classic oil filter.
The rest of this day was just basic little things. Getting a temporary fuel tank hooked up, replacing the battery cables. After all, this is just a hobby for us. Work days tend to be shorter when it's barely above freezing outside.
Aw, listen to him. Still narrating when he's sick as a dog. That's DawgStrip dedication right there. Now, on to day 3. Okay, so now today what we're going to try to do is remove the broken spark plug. This is the majority of the spark plug, but the threaded collar on the end broke off and it's still in the head. That's no bueno. So what we're going to do is we have some assorted sizes of broken bolt extractors. We're going to ram this down inside the collar and hopefully get that spark plug out. If not, head's got to come off. I don't want to do that. We're still assessing this motor and seeing if we want it. Let's give this a try. Please save my motor. Nothing yet. Oh! Fuck yes! Oh. Alright, spark plug part 1, spark plug part 2. That's awesome. I am so happy with that. Yes.
Happy indeed. Now let's throw a new spark plug in that hole and see how the engine will run on 6 cylinders.
After 3 days, we're happy with how things have gone. Project Tetanus now runs and idles on its own. Hurrah! At this point, we'd like to point out just how crusty this trusty van is. The floor is very, very bad. rusted through in some places and very soft in most. Even the walls and roof is rusted through where the ribs used to be. We were told that this van used to be a camper. The previous owner said he pulled up a lot of rotten wood and insulation. The inside corrosion makes a lot of sense if a human was living in this van. All that built-up humidity would remain behind the ribs, eating the van from the inside out.
So now that the van will run, we want to see if it will move. Before that, we need to make sure it can stop. Currently, the brakes do nothing, so we need to dig into that issue first.
Our brake master cylinder wouldn't move. Gave it a really good push, moved once, hasn't come out, so it's seized. Hopefully we can take it apart, clean it, return it back to life. If not, it's got to be sent out to be rebuilt because these things are a 1-year parts and they're no longer available. Okay, don't mind the mess. But this is the master brake cylinder. But that there is the piston inside the bore. Now that is aluminum and the cylinder is steel. So over its 40 years of sitting, there's been some corrosion and it doesn't move. So we're going to put some fire on this and see if we can get things to expand and then move, and then hopefully it'll be good to go.
Fire, good. Fire is your friend. With the proper application, it can make magic happen. This was one of those times. After running a cylinder hone through the badly pitted bore, we threw it back in the van, hoping for the best.
Alright, so a vehicle this old and been sitting for so long, you should replace everything. Like the wheel cylinders, the hoses, everything ages. But right now, all we're trying to achieve is a little bit of brakes, so then we can safely test drive this up and down the street. That's all we want to achieve. So this is the bare minimum, trying to make one brake on one wheel move. That's it. Should be a small, easy accomplishment. Stand by. Alright, so this is Day 3 trying to find leaks on this brake system, and I'm pretty sure we found it. Push. Yeah, that's a pretty good leak right there. Time to make more brake lines.
More brake lines indeed. Unfortunately, the master cylinder still leaks through the front seal. Now our attention shifts to the back brakes, installing new shoes and new cylinders. Hopefully, this will be enough to keep this high-performance automobile under control. Time to drop the van onto its wheels and take it for a test drive.
Don't go too quickly, don't go too fast. Your brakes are like, yeah.
I do what I want. Let us take a tour of this crap can cockpit. With no seatbelt and no seat. No power steering and no power brakes. With little more than a left butt cheek to anchor myself into place while sitting on the inner fender. Let us see how fast it can go. Alright, let's go for a test drive. Ignition. Starter.
And that, right there, is the moment Kevin realized the van door was not closed, and he nearly fell out of the van. Don't be like Kevin. Close your doors.
This van has a 3 on the tree. That refers to a standard transmission with a common H-style shift pattern, but mounted on the side of the steering column. This was rather common in the 1940s through 60s, but this would be my first time driving a 3 on the tree. It felt weird at first, but quickly mastered. Well, that was the most terrifying thing I have ever driven. Woo.
How was that?
Terrifyingly awesome. Woo. It's a theme. How'd it look? Kind of flappy.
Yes,
Shuddery.
I'm pretty sure the door opened a couple of times.
Yay. I almost fell out the door a few times. And with that, we managed to accomplish what we wanted to do. We tested the driveline under load, and so far, everything checks out. At this point, we started putting want ads online looking for Econoline body panels and such. And oh boy, we were not disappointed. What are we doing this time?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to build cars.
So yeah, we went to a wrecking yard for parts, and we bought another van. So come with us on another adventure.
So off we go again, heading back out to the countryside and clearly above the snow line to acquire another long-forgotten automobile. We love wrecking yards like this. They are a true haven of old iron. And we can't be happier that the owner reached out to us. We can't wait to get back and wander about come spring. It's snowing. Why do you always drag my ass out in the snow?
Because it's a winter wonderland of fun.
What do I think about this one? Less tetanus shots, and thankfully, less pain of me sanding for 48 hours.
Oh, just you wait. This van is a great score. No rust anywhere. A good solid base to go forward with our plans. Once again, this van came with very little history behind it, but it can clearly be seen that the van flopped on its side. The rear quarter, roof, and nose are pushed in a fair bit. Also, amongst other things, the motor and tranny are missing. This van is a 1962 standard wheelbase, non-heavy duty model. There are many subtle differences between this van and our 67. The biggest would be that the 62 had the oldest and smallest engine, a 144, while the 67 had a 240, the newest and biggest engine available. Nonetheless, we dragged the new Econoline home for a full assessment and a rework of our game plan. So we brought the 62 home. That means the 67 is for parts.
Now, the 62 is structurally sound, but no drivetrain, no engine.
No, so that means that the running motor from the 67 is coming out. Everything from the 67 is coming out. Even the 9-inch rear end, this one is going in that one. We're going to make one van from two.
If you are an admirer of these Econoline vans, we encourage you to look away. Nothing good lies ahead for you. What to follow is a little more than the dissection and the disposal of a carcass.
But for those of you into that sort of thing, stick around for a while and watch as we pick these bones clean. Those are pretty loose.
Yeah, they were. Were you driving this the other day?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, these are quite loose.
Show me these tires. It's hip to be square.
Oh, wow. There are cracks.
Still good.
This is not so good.
That's a trip.
Yes, yeah, uh-huh.
Ow.
First on our want list will be the drive axle. This heavy-duty model came with the bulletproof Ford 9-inch. We knew the rear leaf springs were pushing up through the floor, but we were shocked to see how bad rust really was. Alarming to think that we were driving around with this just a few days prior. Nevertheless, this axle is a score, and we'll be happy to transplant it into its new forever home.
And this is all that was holding the rear leaf springs to the body. Hopes and prayers. Wow. Up next, we take aim at the 240 straight-six engine. Typically, these can come out through the passenger door, but with the front axle already gone at this point, we take everything out the bottom. For us, this is a great simple power plant. The 240 is the predecessor to the infamous Ford 300. With a single-barrel carburetor and 3-speed manual transmission, this is good enough for our project, and we'll be happy to use what we got.
From here on, we take every part we need for the other van, every part we think we could need, and every other part we think anyone else could use. We strip this van of everything. Nothing goes to waste around here. These things are hard to come by.
On your 50-year-old plus vehicle, sometimes it's good to replace your fuel lines. Safety first.
looks healthy. No, thank you. Oh, God. Oh.
And with that, we'd call it done. Every usable part piled up in the backyard in a section called Future Dreams.
Next, all we have to do is make the rest of this go away. It gets rather brutal from this point onward, but we promise you, it's all for the greater good. And let's face it, we're running out of driveway space. And now, out with the old, in with the new.
So yes, we basically brought this van home and the snow fell. This entire driveway was full. Now that it's melted, let's get inside and see what we're dealing with. Meow. Meow.
This here is the fun part, getting that derelict project vehicle home and starting to go through it for the first time. Trying to figure out what you have, what is missing, and what is plain old trash to be tossed out. And as long as all the rodents have moved out, we'll be fine with that. But if not, they soon will, because Hobo is on guard.
So much poo!
We know nothing about the engine in the back of the van. We think it's an original 144, but it's of no interest to us, and is clearly beyond saving. Onto the scrap pile it goes as we drag out the pressure washer to blast out the rest of this filth. Alright, so after these vans were early designed, Ford realized they were really ass light, so they added 165 pounds of cast iron. I don't want that, so I'm getting rid of it. Holy shit. Oh.
Watch your fingers.
And now for a PSA. For those of you running a stock short Econoline, keep the weight in your van. They can be scary without it.
Alright, so if you haven't paid attention or we didn't mention it, what we're doing with this van is repowering it with the driveline from the first van. This is a 62. It's a tiny engine, small diff van. It's getting a 9-inch and the big 6. That is a tiny brake.
Take that. Take that. Take it.
That thing is mangled.
Are you watching us? Are you watching us? Hobo, being supervisor.
No, it's coming down. There you go. Down.
So what we're doing today is hopefully getting the new rear end under that van. The parts van had a 9-inch rear end, the glorious Ford 9-inch, robust, good, and it came out was the 7 1/4. This thing's made out of glass. Nobody wants it. We're putting in a Ford 300. We want the 9-inch. Hopefully this goes straight in without a single problem whatsoever. And there it is in all its 9 inches of glory. And now for a change in plans. We came across another engine on Craigslist and couldn't pass up a complete 306 for $200. This larger engine is from 1977, but the block is the same as our 240. Once we swap a few things over, we should be able to just bolt it in and go, but that is for a later date.
As for now, we are tired of working outside in the cold. So when we get a break in the weather, we roll the van into the shop. And from here on in, we can fly at it, basking in the glow of heat, light, and good company.
Alright, now that the 62 is in the garage, it's warm, it's dry, we're going to start working on it a bit more. We have to make some engine mount, transmission mounts, and then we're going to start getting into our super secret, horrible plans. Bad things are going to happen to this van. You're warned. Alright, if you remember, we're putting a Ford 306 in an early Econoline van. They're not supposed to fit, the chassis are different. This is what we built. This is going to go in next. Alright, so now another angle. This is the transmission mount from a 62. This is a transmission mount from a 67. We have to make this area look like this area, but further back.
With the transmission mount in place and recessed into the cross member, we add the front and back bracing plate. That should be enough to handle the mighty Ford 300.
Now the transmission mount is finished, we had to focus on the nice dent here in the nose. We could spend days upon days of straightening it out and making it perfect, or purchasing a new one. We'll see what we're going to do now.
I'm going to do things my way. That moved a lot. It's ugly, but it moved. Ow, that's the steering wheel.
You okay? And of course, we'll break out the wooden hammer for the final touches. Nothing here needs to look pretty.
Nice. Why, hello. I didn't see you there. We feel it is prudent, before going forward, that we warn you of the horrors about to befall this first-generation Econoline van. May we suggest, if your preference is that these vehicles should be left original, unmodified, and unmolested, that you stop watching now. To each their own, this video is not for you. Project Tetanus is being built for one event in mind, the Gambler 500. For those of you that are not aware, the Gambler 500 is a weekend event. Commonly 500 kilometers off-road in a $500 car. This event gives us the inspiration to build the Mad Max car we've always wanted to. We built a few in the past, but now we're taking it to the next level of extreme. So join us, if you will, for this next adventure in automotive anarchy. So here we are, time to reveal our super top secret plans via Arts and Crafts. Now here you have your standard first generation Econoline van. We plan to first remove the parts we don't need. Check. Then remove the cab over cockpit from its standard location. Check. Now shift the cockpit aft until it's over the rear wheels. Check. Now you can see the madness that lays before us. Scared yet?
Now, before we get overly ambitious with the cutting and the grinding, we need to add some framework inside the cab. This will make moving it easier and stop it from flopping about all willy-nilly.
The first cut is the deepest. Baby, I know.
fight tonight.
The new location of the cab was dictated by lining up the front and rear inner fenders. From this point, the welding begins, drafting a panel between the inner fenders, then welding all around the lower cab.
So, after the cab moves around a little, the body lines don't look so good. Nothing a little more cutting and welding can't fix. Alright, so you can see that we've done a pretty decent job of lining up the body lines on the rear quarter. Next, we gotta deal with the giant hole left in the roof. So yeah, putting the roof back on. Nothing fancy here other than long, tedious hours of welding, spacing out the spot welds to avoid warpage caused by built-up heat.
Next, we add double plates around the near steering box location, adding strength to the unibody frame rail. Then it's time to upgrade the braking system, going from the old to the new. This new unit will also be adding power brakes to the rig. Woot! After a quick cut, trim, and weld, the clutch pedal is also modified to meet our needs. And after all of that, this is what it looks like. Everything just the way no one intended it to be.
Okay, so now that the cab has a new home, we have the steering column, we have all the pedals. We have to deal with this. We have to fill the gap in the floppy rocker here. And then we have to deal with the wheel well, because as you can see, the tire is a wee bit too large.
And now, through the magic of editing, or forgetful filming, both rockers are done. And not too shabby.
Now that the cutting and welding is done after about a month, it is time to get to Bondo. Make this pig nice and smooth.
A Bondo is good. Bondo is your friend. After using up our leftover stock, we are left with a lovely mixture that resembles cotton candy. Then, the primer, giving Tetanus its future base coat of rust in our attempt at fake patina.
And so today I'm going to show you how to paint a nice muddy field. You start by painting everything brown.
Next is the flat white top coat, at least until the battery camera runs out. So here you have it, and the bodywork is almost done. We agree, it looks weird, but that's just how we like them. Alright, so now that we're done with bodywork, we're going to play with engines. This is the 240 that came out of the 67, and this over here is the Ford 300. And we got it from a 77 pickup truck. So what we're going to do is put the 300 where the 240 used to be, transferring a bunch of things over. 3-speed on the tree transmission, points distributor, a bunch of other stuff, but we're going to show you the things that you need to change in order to put 300 in the Econoline.
For those of you that don't know, the Ford 300 engine has a good reputation for simplicity and reliability. For us, the upgrade should be an easy one. The 240 and 300 are the same engine block with different internals. Basically, a stroker kit with factory parts makes the 240 a 300. Ford did this a lot. 360 could be a 390, 351 could be a 400, and so on and so on.
One little tidbit of information you may or may not know is how to decipher a Ford casting number. Basically, the first two numbers are going to tell you the year that that casting was designed or poured. Alright, so here we have the casting number for the block. It is D5TE. D is going to be the decade for the 70s. 5 is going to be year 75. So if it was from the 60s, it would be C5. So we know that this is a 300 cubic inch engine from a 1975 Ford truck. Holy shit, that's a lot of oil. One thing that we have to swap between the two engines is the oil pan. They're vehicle specific, and it's always good to peel it off and take a look inside because this was a $200 engine that we have no history on. So let's look for squirrels, nuts, and or lost keys. What treasures will we find?
Because this 300 engine was from a pickup truck, it has a rear sump oil pan. This will not clear the 6070 Econoline cross member. Hence, the reason why we must now swap pans with the 240.
Dirty, but it's not full of chunkiness. We'll take that any day of the week. Awesome.
Everything under here is just the way we like it. No spun bearings or discolored end caps. The rods aren't slapping around. By our standards, this sucker is mint. With the pan swap also comes the exchange of the oil pickup tube and the dipstick. The oil pickup is an easy unbolt and swap. Now, the dipstick has a little more to it. The 300 has its dipstick in the side of the pan, whereas the 240 goes in the side of the block. To remove the 240 dipstick tube is an easy hammer and punch job. The 300 block still has the old 240 casting holes in said block. Just punch out the world's smallest frost plug and reinstall the 240's dipstick tube. Note, the 240 dipstick seems to come in contact with the 300 crank. We put a bit of a bend in the dipstick for clearance.
Alright, now that all that is done, let's put the pan on.
Next, we're back to the old 240 for the points distributor. The 300 has a 4 Duraspark ignition, a good system, but this engine did not come with the ignition box for it. So we'll slap the old distributor on for now, as we know it works. Now we have to swap the oil filter mount. The 300 has a side-mounted oil filter that will interfere with the Econoline chassis. Both engine oil fittings had to be removed. One came easier than the other. Then it's as easy as moving the oil filter adapter from the 240 to the 300. We never wanted these things to move again, so after a slathering of red Loctite, we applied the appropriate amount of Ugga-Dugga.
Ugga-dugga-dugga.
Next, we assembled the front accessories. This was a mix between the two engines. 300 pulleys, 240 alternator mount, 300 alternator. Just a mix of what we had. Everything worked, but the 240 fan spacer wouldn't fit with the 300 water pump. After some precise and master level machining, everything was right and good with the world. Next, we tackle the manifolds. These suckers are cast iron and heavy. That, right there, 25 pounds falling to the floor. Through trading parts, we got our hands on this new exhaust manifold. It's a reproduction of the heavy-duty 2.5-inch outlet commonly found on dump trucks with the 300. Using a rust-removing pad on a grinder made short work of cleaning off the gasket surfaces. The 2.5 outlet should breathe better than the standard 2-inch, so let's slap it on. After giving the single barrel carburetor a quick clean on new gaskets, we turn our attention to the worn ring gear. On a Ford flywheel, you can change out a ring gear or just flip it.
Blang.
We heated up the 240 ring gear in the oven
Bon appetit.
while the 300 flywheel was in the freezer overnight. While moving quickly, put them into place before the temperatures equalized and they locked themselves into place. And so, with the engine now hanging from chains, we add a few more parts. We ended up using the 300 truck clutch and pressure plate as they were larger than the set from the 240 Econoline. After adding the bell housing, we realized we were only a starter away from a test run. So, this means it took a few tries, but we managed to get the timing zeroed in. That was epic. The first time we had ever heard this engine run, and it ran good. After getting the 3-speed top-loader transmission into place, we cut more holes into the floor.
There you go.
This hump was built into the 67 to accommodate the larger 240, in which we had to add to this 62 chassis. Now, what we were all waiting for, time to stuff that hole with our big 6. At this point, all was left to do was fabricate a new forward engine mount, and boom, the engine mounted.
Now at this point we've got about 9 days that we can still work on it before we run out of time, but you're going to see us in a mad rush. Time to beat the clock.
Since we did not do much recording yesterday, let's do a day 1 recap. The broken windshield is out, the escape hatch is in, and the seat mounts are done. Now for day 2.
Day 2 is front-end bodywork. We add Model A fenders to the mix as the rut rod theme gradually begins to reveal itself. This entire build was influenced by a vision, and whatever parts we came across to slap it all together. Next is the grille, apparently from a 1947 McCormick tractor.
So as you can see, we've been getting a lot done. Not a lot of recording, but you know what? When it's just fabrication work, it's long, it's tedious, but the outcome is worth it. Oh, so happy with that.
Today we work on the steering system. Before the cab was moved, this drag link went forward to the cab-mounted steering box. Now, with the cab moved toward the rear, we had to reconnect the suspension to said box. For that, we ordered this, a 56-inch long drag bar. We also machined out the forward hub to flip the ball joint from the underhung to the overtop. All of that just to make this monstrosity travel and point where we want it to.
Moving right along, we focus on the fuel system. After getting the tank base fabbed up, we mount the tank. Not really sure what this tank was from, and it needed a small leak repair, but damn, it sure fits the bill. After getting everything hooked up, we flushed the system with fresh fuel. Now you want to dispose of that immediately because, you know, that actually looks like a nice, cool, refreshing Corona.
With the fuel system hooked up and flowing, it's time to make some noise. Fantastic! Music to the ears, although the lungs seem to be complaining. It's clear the engine is in dire need of some water, so the next day we move right along to the cooling system.
This radiator was from the 67 van, and after a few heat cycles, it was clear we had an issue. Of course, this means tearing it all apart again. At least this radiator was old and coppered, and we could solder up the pinhole leak. Now let's fill her up and see if it holds.
After giving Tetanus another fill of city tap water, we check for leaks. This time, all is well. Let's hope it stays that way.
We'll take this moment to cover a few completed items. This is the 2 1/4 inch completed exhaust system, with some used Flowmaster muffler we had laying around. These are the new shifter cables. With the shift column now behind the transmission, we had to run the cables in a large loop. Brakes. Brakes are good. Brakes are your friend. We also had a very late night completely rebuilding the front drum brakes. Let us reiterate, brakes are good. All right, welcome back. Now, we have 2.5 days before the Gambler to finish this rig. So there's going to be a lot of frantic work, not a lot of filming, and maybe we'll explain a few things as we go. But come along for the ride. We'll see how far we get. Yay! Yay! What are you doing?
Having the fun time of removing U-bolts so we can put in the lift blocks.
Lift blocks. Tires are too big.
Yep.
Strong like bunny.
Strong, buddy.
Now that the wheels are on the ground, we noticed the rear was sagging. So after getting some new U-bolts made up, we installed lift blocks to bring the rear back up to level.
Alright, it is Friday morning, and we thrashed late into the night last night getting things done on Tetanus. And unfortunately, because there's only 2 of us, that means not a lot of filming. So we're sorry about that, but we'll still try to make what we can of this. And we'll show you what we did yesterday. Now, we have to be on the road with Tetanus today, so I am sorry. Still not a lot of filming, but we'll give you some recap stuff and maybe some reactions, you know, if it's on the road, once it's on the road, how it drives, if it drives, and all those glorious things. So here, let's take a look at the progress thus far. Boom. Tetanus. Alright, so there are 2 fenders. Fenders are good. We have headlights. Headlights are good. We have signal lights. Signal lights are good. We have a license plate and insurance. Horn. Grill of awesome. Now, this was the primary achievement of yesterday. This is the battery location and a bunch of its wiring. We have the solenoid. We have a voltage regulator. We have a horn relay. And a nice new shiny blueness, which would be a single-wire Chevy HEI distributor in a Ford 4.9-liter 6. So that is working. It's awesome. We don't know how to time it. We'll do that on the road. Alternator is working. It is producing electricity. And just, you know, a whole bunch of wiring nonsense. A windshield is in. This is glorious. This was a pain in the ass. But nonetheless, it's been cleaned. It's good. It's awesome. It is par for the course of everything else. But this came out of the other van. It is vintage and it's good. This side window broke yesterday, so we'll see if we address that. Unlikely. We have a speedometer. Yes, officer, we have a speedometer full of tie wraps holding it in place. The speedo cable. Oh, let's open our rear access. Alright, so the speedo cable is so long from the old design that it is coming up through the floor, looping itself around the entire dash, and then going back up to the speedometer from a 78 Ford Mustang. Yes, some good things came out of 74 Mustang. That speedo is one of them. Hopefully it's going to work and be somewhat accurate. We also have a rear license plate. Oh, God. Okay, so... what else? Spare tire. Spare tire mounts there with that and gets bolted down into place. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Vintage license. You can see that this windshield is at least from 1974 and at least older than that, and we saved it and it's still being used. So we also have a roof vent that got installed, I don't know, a long time ago. Didn't film, whatever. So here we are. Oh yeah, electric choke, because we didn't like the old crap. So new electric choke, just to do its thing. Exhaust return plug has been valved into a valve, so maybe we can open that up while we're driving and make some weird noise. At the same time, it is also using the throttle return spring, so it's keeping the valve closed and keeping the throttle from driving us into a tree. I need sleep. Alright, so we still have much to do, And the Gambler isn't actually until tomorrow morning, like 8 a.m., but we want to have this thing done, go up and down the street a few times before driving an hour to the Gambler start location, and, you know, some time in case things break down or hoses pop or belts throw or that kind of stuff. So realistically, it's 7 a.m. now, 4 hours of sleep last night, so if we're on the road at 7 p.m., that's a win. So that's the goal. Roads 7 p.m. It's good to have dreams. If not, what else can you break?
And now it's time to put in our sexy battery cover.
That is the bomb diggity.
And that's it. Building is over. Time to ease Tetanus out from the shadows and into the light of day. With everything we did, it wouldn't fit through the garage door. We ended up putting on the smallest tires we have, flattening them, thus allowing us to squeak through that opening. After that, it's an indie-style tire change in the pits before the first test drive.
Look at that sound.
Let the air in.
And so it begins.
This right here was a huge achievement for us, going up and down the street for the first time ever. Clearly, far from flawless, but that ain't bad. It drives, it stops, and it kinda steers. After this, we toss our camping gear in the back and we're on the road by 8 p.m. On our way to the Gambler event, we hope to be there before dark. That didn't happen, but you'll have to wait for a future video for that story to find out why. Next time on DawgStrip is the big one. After a hard push of long nights and crazy hours, Project Tetanus is out of the garage, and just in time as we hit the road for the BC Gambler 500, a 500-kilometer backroad rally for beater cars. A fantastic event for those who just want to have a good time and thrash on cars, or show off what you built. Now, like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video. Give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing.